Hello everyone and welcome to the Figure Fourcast. I'm your host Damien Cross. A little bit of a different episode this week, so we're just going to jump straight into an interview that I did with my dad. Hope you enjoy. So I've never interviewed anyone for anything before, so this is going to be interesting, but we don't have an episode as Sam is not very well. So I'm going to interview my dad about what he thinks about wrestling and see how that goes. When did you start watching wrestling? We'll start there.
Oh my god. Got to have been about 89, 88, something like that.
So like kind of the early days of WrestleMania, but that's before Monday Night Raw.
Oh yeah. I remember watching the Mega Powers explode and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a long time ago though. But
yeah, I've just gone back and rewatched those WrestleManias. Different time for wrestling. It's come a long way in that time. But to speak to someone who has been watching since the beginning, what kind of do you think the biggest change do you think you've seen over the years?
Oh god, that's a difficult one. I think.
Yeah, Sam asked me that last week, and I kind of struggled to answer it myself. But
I think the out of ring stuff has changed a lot more than the in-ring stuff, because that's not. I suppose that's still more or less the same, but it's the promos and that not quite as bad as they used to be. And
yeah, they definitely had a particular energy, especially Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage.
Yeah. But the in-ring stuff doesn't seem that different. I mean, they don't do the same moves. They've stopped doing like atomic drops the whole time, which is what they always used to do, and sleeper holds. But the rest of it seems. Because like Bret Hart was back then, and he's still doing the same kind of stuff that he did back then. But tag teams were a lot better back then.
Yeah,
I have to say, definitely better tag teams.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about a lot, that current WWE just doesn't seem to know what to do with tag team wrestling, both on the men and women's side.
Yeah. It used to be more. So was it more tag team, or I think it was definitely more for tag teams, and then they'd do some singles as well. It was, I think everybody was in tag teams back in the old days.
So you mentioned Bret Hart, obviously it was the Hart Foundation. They were quite a big tag team around that time. And Shawn Michaels in the Rockers. Obviously they were both going to have individual singles careers, but they did quite a lot of
they were good. I remember them when they were Demolition and stuff like that. They were good. Yeah, Demolition was pretty good, even though I don't know if it was always seemed to be them and the Hart Foundation got a fight, and that's all I can't remember the others, but I know there was a lot of tag teams. Or it always used to be two of everybody, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
So we'll move more to current day wrestling. Me and Sam have been criticising Monday Night Raw, especially, a lot recently. But you also tune in every week, and unlike me and Sam, who now do this so we can comment on it, you're just watching for kind of the actual entertainment you get from the programme. What do you think about Raw at the minute, especially?
It's repeating the same matches all the time is a big problem, because you never seem to get anywhere. It's like, didn't we do this the other week? And never seem to put other people against anybody different. It's always the same one. That is a big problem, but it's because they took Paul Heyman off it.
It was quite good for that brief window when he was kind of in charge. It seemed to turn in the right direction.
Yeah, and now it's not gone backwards, but yeah, they just don't seem to be nowhere to go with it, and it's a bit of a problem when it's the same every week. It gets a bit boring.
With AEW getting better weekly, we watched a little bit of a show the other week. I only just found out it's actually airs on Friday on ITV4, I think, here in the UK. So
right, okay.
Something you might be trying to watch more of in the future. But with them being more and more competitors to WWE, do you think that's going to be a positive, that we might see some changes in WWE to kind of compensate for that?
They look like they're more competition for NXT rather than for the main ones, because just watching them, it just seemed a bit mad and not making any sense, which is a bit more like.
Yeah, that.
And it was that match was crazy, and it made no sense who was fighting who and what was going on.
Yeah, I believe it was a kind of like a fairground match or something, like a carnival match.
It was just weird.
As a new viewer, that was a little hard to follow, but I'm sure if you've been tuning in every week, you might be able to follow it a little bit more.
But the actual in-ring stuff, they're pretty good. I like watching them. They look like they hurt each other, which is what you want.
Yeah, a little bit of good selling or some actual injuries can definitely add a little bit of entertainment. Although you don't want anyone to actually get hurt, it does kind of add to the kind of spectacle when someone's busted open. Or
yeah, you've got to do it a bit, otherwise it does look too fake. You pull every punch, you're like, that didn't actually hit him. When you've kicked his teeth out, you're like, can't say that's fake.
No. Obviously, I think the one that stuck out for me recently was the bro kick on Riddle when he was upside down.
Yeah, that looked like that hurt. I wouldn't fancy having to try and practicing for it might have been interesting.
Yeah, not landing on your head might prove difficult.
I think bro kick generally is going to be a centimetre or two the wrong way. You're going to eat boot, but being upside down while he does it, he's asking to have your teeth kicked out.
Yeah, fair play to both of them there for being able to perform that in a way that Riddle was comfortable with. I'm not sure Sheamus was too fussed about it, but for Riddle to be happy to take it, that takes a lot of trust in both of them, or just a willingness to get kicked in the face.
Or Sheamus didn't tell him he was going to do it.
I hope that isn't true.
Yeah. But no, that's. I like to see it a bit. Not too. Don't want to go Ric Flair pink hair all the time, but you've got to have it a little bit to show they are actually making contact.
Yeah, they've recently brought it back with kind of the Edge, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns story of doing the concerto, because they can do that in a way that doesn't actually hit them. Yeah. And you can kind of see it this week on SmackDown that the chair just hits the mat. It's not making any contact with Daniel Bryan whatsoever. But in the moment, you're not focused on that. You get that sound of the two chairs clashing, and you really think that that's a move that would really hurt. And I feel like doing stuff like that is the right way to go. We don't need to go back to kind of The Rock smashing Mankind's head in while he was handcuffed, because that was just uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah. But the sound, that's what you want, the sound. A bit like Bianca Belair whipping. It's that does much more than actually seeing it. It's hearing it. It's like, ow. So she got Bobby Roode, whipped him across the back in SmackDown.
Did I miss that on SmackDown? That's not very good from me.
Yeah, he was doing something to Street Profits, and she cut in the ring and whipped him across his back.
Oh, I do think I remember, because the commentators talking about you're not allowed to interact between male and females. That's their mixed tag matches, which have always been a weird one. Even back in the day, they had Macho Man Randy Savage, or I think he was Macho King at the time.
Oh God, yeah.
Versus Dusty Rhodes.
And what was her name?
But they had a mixed tag match, and they still had the rule back then, so it's not something they've added in, but it is a kind of weird that when one person tags, the other team have to, and you kind of take away from the tag part of it a little bit when you do that.
Yeah, you want them to actually just get on with it, just start fighting. A bit like China. She can do it, why can't you?
Well, especially as it's all faked. Like, they're not actually hurting each other for the most part. So we had it last year, I believe, or maybe the year before. It's been a weird time with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans, and Baron Corbin hits End of Days on Becky Lynch.
Yeah, and no one
because the
cried about it. Did they?
The move is safe to take, but it is dramatic because it never happens. You're like, oh, like wow.
But then Bianca Belair got Bobby Roode up on her shoulders as well, so you want to see that as well.
Yeah, you can add some extra dynamic to the matches, so hopefully we can see just a little bit more. We don't necessarily need to have Bobby Lashley versus Charlotte Flair for the title, but
Braun Strowman against Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, they're not going to be necessarily going to need to be competitive, but just a little bit of interaction can go a long way.
Yeah, they don't have to run off from each other. They want to be there. Yeah.
So I haven't talked about this yet on the podcast, but we did go and see some live wrestling a long time ago. Some local wrestling, which was interesting to look back on, of the kind of the quality differences between a promotion that's fully fledged as WWE, selling out arenas, and a local wrestling group in a working men's club.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting, but I thought we'd bring it up because you were the person who took me to. Did we go twice or was it just once?
I think
there was two of
maybe
them.
it was. Yeah, I can't remember. I remember the one. I can't remember if it. But the sliced bread that wrestling was. Yeah, it was good fun. I'll have to admit, watching it was. They did do a good show, but
yeah, they kind of get the interaction with the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, that's
more
what
than you can get in a big one.
Yeah.
Memorable for the poster, which had a wrestler with a t-shirt on, "Shut Your Face," but it was cut off, so it just said "Shut Your Rob Hunter." Unfortunately, I did look, he's no longer wrestling, but that was 15 years ago, we think. So
you were at primary school because the referee was someone at your school, wasn't he? His dad.
A weird kind of like, I know you were a referee for Sliced Bread Wrestling.
But they were good. It was a good show. We really enjoyed it. It was, some of them were a bit, But the others were the one with the orange.
Was that the guy that was trying to buy a drink at the bar?
No, I think he was fighting him at the time. The one who threw his whatsits everywhere.
Yeah, I do kind of remember that, which is such an interesting.
He was the heel, the one with the orange trunks on. He was the heel, but he was really good at it. Still, I've never worked out his name, but he was good. He was a good heel. He played up to the crowd, get there. That was, for being so close to it, it was pretty good. Getting covered with water when he threw it everywhere, bottled water. But I really enjoyed that, and you really loved it. And then won a WWE video in the raffle or something.
Still need to check which pay-per-view that was. I think it had a match between Kane and The Undertaker with a special guest referee, Stone Cold. I think
I don't know about that.
It would be one of the In Your House pay-per-views, but
yeah, that was a few years ago though.
Yeah,
probably 20, nearly.
Well, it was somewhere between 15 and 20 years, so it would have been around the time I kind of got into wrestling.
Because because you liked it, because I watched it at the weekends, but I think that was the first time. I think that's the first time for ages I'd seen anything like that live. That was good. Now we've just got to wait until they come back to SmackDown. Raw.
Has it changed to Raw now?
The one that's you said it's Raw that's does the touring now, not SmackDown.
My dad's got tickets to watch one of the shows live, but obviously the pandemic hit just as that was meant to happen.
Before.
Meant to be May last year, then it got changed to May this year.
Still postponed for another.
Postponed, but next UK tour, presumably, we'll be able to go and watch them.
Which will be good. I'd like to see what it's like for taping of one of those, what it's like. Hopefully it's just as good, but
I imagine the atmosphere is good. They always seem to have good.
Hopefully, I mean slapping rain, something like the Miz or something like that.
If we were on camera side, like.
Yeah. Might have to get a t-shirt before we go for that.
I'm going to wear one of our Figure Forecast t-shirts that we're not making because.
No, you'll have to make one for that, just in case you get on camera.
Get the brand out there.
Yeah.
Who knows? By May next year, we might have a good number of people that listen. So
You also may have Sheamus knocking on the door.
I did not call Sheamus out. That wasn't what happened.
Or someone else might have Bobby Lashley knocking on the door.
So, because I'm not an interviewer, I'm just going through this all over the place. What's your favourite wrestling match that you can think of? Or I'm going to put you on the spot.
The one I remember enjoying the most from a long time ago was the Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior. Was that WrestleMania?
The
when they
title unification.
yeah, when they put that was. I remember watching that, and that was really good because you wanted both to win, but you weren't. They didn't do it for. It seemed to go on for ages. Every time you thought one of them was going to get the pin, they kicked out, and then it. But that one I remember really enjoying. But I like
blurring in my mind because I've watched 1 to 8 WrestleManias in like the last week and a half. But I think that's either 5 or 6.
Sounds about. I'm not sure because it was a while ago.
I do remember being a little surprised when it kind of got to that match and seeing how much was left of the show, because one of the things that was quite prominent back in the day was a lot of shorter matches, especially on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And yeah, seeing how much was left of the match, like, was quite surprising. We're used to seeing 20-30 minute matches for titles all the time now, but it was a little more uncommon back then. They had a time limit, which I didn't realise. They would announce it that like after 60 minutes, if there's not been a winner, the match is over.
But that's the way of just finishing a match without actually anybody losing or winning.
It would be interesting to see if any matches ever did go the distance for the title matches. I know they had Iron Man matches and things, but it would be something to look into. But
definitely that was one of the best ones to watch. But then a lot of recent ones, you probably think back, if you can remember them all. There's so many after a while, it's hard to remember. But a lot of it's hard. You seem to remember the bad ones more than you remember the good ones. So ones where you think, I could have beat him.
Oh, I mean, you put yourself on the spot then. Which is a bad match that you can think where you could have won yourself?
No, actually, the worst match I've seen for a while, it was got to be Undertaker and Goldberg, when they both tried to kill each other by dropping themselves on their heads. That kind of match, it sticks in your mind because it was like, oh, that did not look good.
No, I don't think many people are going to have fond memories of that, especially not The Undertaker and Goldberg. I think The Undertaker talked about it on an interview before.
Yeah.
But yeah, that match and the DX versus Kane and Undertaker match were two that kind of wish they hadn't happened.
Yeah.
As great as it was to see Shawn Michaels step back in the ring,
it's not quite.
The star power's gone. Obviously, he's lost his hair now, which is still so strange to see. Especially as he normally wears a hat, and then it was like Shawn Michaels is bald. When did that happen? But it was surprisingly was good, apart from a few spots. But yeah, those are some matches that probably didn't.
They seem to stick a bit more than. Most of them are actually pretty good. A lot of the women's matches recently have been really good. Especially like the Hell in a Cell ones they did, and they've been good. So but some of the women's lately have been a bit.
Yeah, that's something we've
not trying that hard,
noted.
Especially with Lana in it for some reason.
Not sure whether the women's wrestlers aren't being given the time, or aren't. There's just something not connecting, because we've seen almost all of them have amazing matches. So much so that even the ones that aren't as good in the ring should be able to be helped through. Like, if you've got someone really talented, they should be able to wrestle with someone who's not and make it look good. I think there was a joke Triple H made when they had a show where they didn't have any wrestlers, that he would get CM Punk to wrestle a mop for 45 minutes and it would still be entertaining, or something like that was said. And it is kind of true that if you've got someone who's really good, they could wrestle with anyone and make a good match out of it. So it is interesting that some of the women wrestlers are being kind of exposed, but they shouldn't be. There should be enough talent to kind of make it work, and there's something not quite there at the minute.
I think they're giving them enough time on air, but not enough quality matches to make up for it. It's like Nia Jackson, those ones, Baszler ones, they seem to be getting the same things happening every week, and it's like...
Yeah, a lot of TV time for that story, but it doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Yeah.
We've talked about it, that we're kind of assuming that Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are going to split up. At some point, they're going to have a little feud with each other and then go off into the singles thing. And I don't know if they're holding off for a live crowd.
Oh, maybe that's a lot of it. What they're not doing stuff. It's just they're just biding time until they can get people back into.
Yeah, they do just seem to be dragging it out, and it's fine to drag out the right story, book it over a long time, but it does definitely feel that at the minute certain stories are just stagnating. They're not going anywhere, and they're not particularly entertaining to keep watching.
See, like Bianca Belair against Sasha Banks was good. Their match was really put the effort in, and that was good. But the tag team ones, they seem to be struggling. I don't know why. Maybe they just don't want to do anything until.
Which, from one perspective, is understandable, because if you've got a big dramatic moment, surely you want that in front of a crowd to get the reaction. I think it's get the right one. I think Jimmy Uso is ready to come back. I think I've seen reports that he's no longer injured, but he's not been on.
They're waiting for a.
But are they waiting for him to come back and he's going to feud with Jay and have a little sibling feud? That would be pretty good, but you kind of
Or is he going to come back and cost Roman the title for what he's done to Jay, and then they kicks it off? That would be quite good.
Either way, you need that crowd in attendance to react.
I'm surprised after having the crowd back at WrestleMania, they haven't had a limited crowd back for normal SmackDown and Raw. Which for the Americans, I thought they would go for it. After letting them in for that, they'd want it.
I'm not surprised for the weekly shows, because they have spent a lot of money to do this.
I suppose they have to take away the Thunderdome thing.
But I am surprised that Backlash, or WrestleMania Backlash, is back behind closed doors. I would have thought they might start trying to ease out. Although there is rumours that they plan to start touring again by the summer. So
that would be good to get it back to normal. But people forget what to do when they go if they leave it too much longer. They'll all be standing there quiet, sitting down, watching them. Now that would be weird.
It would. You do kind of miss it. As good as the Thunderdome has been, having a crowd at WrestleMania just kind of made everything.
The poor guy that made all the signs is sitting there with his warehouse full of them that he needs. Yeah, on with stupid signs and. Yeah.
So I'll cut that. This always happens, man. I need to start eating before we record stuff. I don't know what else to record. I don't know what else to ask.
No, that's talking about No. I'm trying to think of anything I can think of.
So one thing a lot of wrestling fans like to do is fantasy book. It's a big thing about that's kind of how we started doing predictions, was who do we want to win and whether we want someone, what kind of stories. So the big four champions, we've got the two men's, Bobby Lashley is WWE, Roman Reigns is Universal, Bianca Belair as SmackDown Women's Champion, and Rhea Ripley as Raw Women's Champion. Who would you like to see them face at, we'll say SummerSlam, because that's the next really big pay-per-view. What kind of matchups would you want to see? Assuming they all hold the title to then. I think a couple of them might not, but...
See, it's Bobby Lashley's has got to be Drew McIntyre again. I want to see him not just use the Hurt Lock all the time, because that's getting a bit. Come on.
So you'd carry that story through
It's either
the summer?
Lashley or he fights Reigns, but that means he's got to switch brands. So that's.
I do think there's a draft coming up soon.
Oh yeah. So, but I'd like to see that him and Reigns would be quite. I reckon they'd be
The
quite good.
Survivor Series match, I believe it was
Yeah.
pretty good. Had some good promos. So.
And I read something earlier that Mark Henry's looking for a comeback and he's lost like 6 stone. So him against Lashley would be a good clash. I could see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I would have thought of, but if he's in, because last time we saw him, he had knee surgery. I think he was on like a scooter type thing.
Yes, that was.
But if he's match ready and in good shape,
I think he did like the big shows, lost a lot of.
yeah, Mark Henry versus Bobby Lashley could be
Like a
one.
strength. Like you think you're so strong, take me on. That kind of. I could see that.
Could make Bobby Lashley look really good as well if he wins.
Yeah. Someone, I'm not sure which one of the women, but one of them, it's got to be Becky against one of them. It's probably be Rhea Ripley, I would have thought, because they won't want her to Bianca Belair. But
I think if Becky comes back, she'll go on to SmackDown, just because Seth Rollins is there, and I would imagine, especially if they're going to start touring again, they'd want them to be together because.
But they don't always do that though.
No, it's just because there's a child, you've got to arrange for people to child sit them, babysit them, or whatever. I think they might keep them together, but Becky Lynch versus either Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley would be a big money match.
I think Rhea Ripley a bit more. I think it would be good to see her against Bianca Belair, but I think they'd do it more against Rhea Ripley. But who Bianca Belair should have to? See. We can only keep seeing her against Sasha. That's the only thing.
It was such a good match that you kind of want to see the follow up.
Yeah. They did do really good against each other. They seem to.
If they can hold off until SummerSlam and not have them fight in one of the small pay-per-views between that, I think that could go down as a really good follow up.
Is there any other women that are due to come back? Not Charlotte, because. Then again, Rhea Ripley kicking Charlotte's teeth, that might be a good match.
I think
can see that being quite good.
I think that's what we might be getting. That looks like the story that they're trying to tell.
Because we don't know when Becky's coming back. But that would be quite good. Yeah, I like to see. Because they're about the same size. So. Yeah, I'd like that to be quite good.
Obviously, they had the WrestleMania 36 match, which unfortunately Charlotte won. Everyone kind of wanted.
Yeah, but wasn't that a triple threat or something?
It's the NXT Championship match.
Oh, right, yeah. I was thinking, last time she was in it, she came into the main roster for one match, didn't she, Rhea Ripley? That was last year.
The call-ups and the switch between NXT and main roster, even though we're not meant to call it that anymore, have been kind of weird. We had Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa come up and then go back down, and obviously who can remember sometimes with WWE, they'll change their minds on a weekly basis. So.
Yeah, but those ones I like to see. Just some of the people coming back and going for the titles would be good. The people that have been out for a long time. Be nice. Or is there anybody new that's gonna? No one new coming through, is there? No.
No one that jumps out at the minute.
They haven't done let's announce someone's coming soon for 6 months before they actually turn up, and then they're rubbish.
We have Aleister Black having some returning promos, which are a little odd.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing with that.
We'll have to wait and see on that one.
I liked him. He was quite good, but he didn't last. He didn't do anything. He just did some.
Seems there was some
matches.
Backstage kind of stories there.
Sacked his missus. Just
probably doesn't help. So, lastly, on the fantasy booking, if you could take one wrestler from back in the day, in their prime, to come into WWE now, so you could have prime Ultimate Warrior, for example. Who would you pick as a past wrestler and a current wrestler to kind of square off? There's a lot of wrestlers back in the day who would make amazing personalities.
I mentioned earlier that if he came back now, he'd shake it up, is Bret Hart, because he was brilliant what he did. So I think he'd come up, but who from now to face him, I don't know. Someone, maybe him against someone like Daniel Bryan would have been a good match, because they're both really good technical wrestlers. That would have been
on a purely fantasy,
that would have been a nice one.
Prime Bret Hart versus the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns in a family versus family kind of feud could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I can't.
You could.
It was just two different styles, but whereas he would have messed him up. I can see him sharpshooting him too much. So
I think I've talked myself into it. A Hart family versus, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, so I'm not even going to try, the
Reigns family. In a kind of in a feud, you could have Owen Hart and
Jim the Anvil. That's the one, Jim the Anvil, Neidhart, in a tag match against the Usos. Like, ooh, that's the sort of matches you can only dream of.
Yeah. Jim the Anvil was good. He was big and he was strong. Yeah. See, things like that. Yeah, if you could get them back now, it would be good. But Bret Hart now, well, I think he'd shake it up a bit, because he could out wrestle most of them technically. But there's only a few that could play him at his own game.
He's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be for a reason.
Yes. He always looked, whatever he did, looked like it hurt. That was always a good plus for him. All his moves look like that's bad. I wouldn't want that.
I don't think I'd want many moves, to be fair.
No. But the sharpshooter, he used to do it so well.
I did an ever so brief wrestling school thing with Sam. The next day wasn't fun when doing that. Like, even simple things like an RKO, you're landing on that floor, and it was padded, but it didn't feel like enough. Those kind of like school, like gym
Crash
mats, the thin blue ones, was basically what we were doing it onto. I don't know if that's more or less padded than a wrestling ring, but I think wrestling rings have a little bit of bounce to the boards, which kind of lessens the impact.
You do it on the apron, which is the hardest part of the ring. Yes, no, I agree. But I think the boards are meant to make it sound worse than it is, but it's not a enjoyable experience.
No.
That's why when people say it's all fake, you try and do it then. Oh no. But yeah, I wouldn't. I'd maybe do it once and then think, next time I might not get up afterwards.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go.
Get put through a table by the Dudleys. That will be something you can talk about with pride. It really hurt. Like,
yeah.
Going through a wooden table, even if it is a table that's designed to break. Like,
I've seen enough wounds inflicted by the breaking tables that, like Hardcore Holly, when he split his back open about a foot. Yeah, I don't think I'd give it a go, but maybe 20 years ago.
I mean, Goldberg came back. He's older than you are.
Yeah. I could drop Undertaker on his head.
We've got a late push. I don't know how old DDP was when he started wrestling, but he wasn't a young man when he got into it. So
if Bad Bunny can do it, I can do it.
There you go. You heard it on this podcast first. This is the first step into my dad becoming a wrestler.
As long as they let me do the Canadian Destroyer on the Miz.
We'll see what we can arrange.
On the concrete.
I think that's a good point to kind of wrap this weird interview discussion thing up. Hopefully it sounded okay. And hopefully Sam is back next week and his voice is recovered, but... Well, I hope everyone enjoyed listening to that. It was a bit of a weird kind of thing to do this week, but if everyone enjoyed it, maybe we can follow it up in a future episode, ask a few more questions. So if you do have any questions you'd like to ask me, Sam, or now apparently my dad, you can send them to us. We're on Facebook at The Figure Forecast. We're on Twitter at Figure4UK, and we're on YouTube, where you can find by searching The Figure Forecast. But that's all the time we've got this week. Hopefully we're back to regular stuff next week. Bye.